all come to pray, going back for warriors, keeping the whispers away. In suits and in skirts, we're the rebels you say, talking about life and dreaming of a different day. On the back row we stay, in the back we don't sway, just let the sermon flow. We're on the back row.
It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall. It is an Articles of News episode. He appeared out of nowhere. Literally, small particles of dust came together as matter, and then it became the news wizard himself. It's Verlin. Hello, how are you, sir?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am well. I appreciate are we ever going to say, oh, I'm not well? Let me tell you about how terrible this is going. It's fine. You are not in your...
I really am well. I'm not terrible.
Well,
I'm
I
doing
am
good.
too, but as pleasantries go, you would never be like, yeah, you wouldn't believe what a jerk Susan is, and then we all are like, oh my gosh. And we wouldn't believe that for two reasons. One, because Susan would never be a jerk, and two, you would never share that in a thing like this. I also am relatively well.
Good.
Yeah. The news marathon of last week, I had to wipe some sweat from my brow, and now ready to get back into it. We just had
you were on the grind last week for sure.
Well, and I appreciate you being part of it. Again, you were the first one I asked, just not the first one I recorded with. Trying to be...
it's the hazards of being on the East Coast time zone. That's the challenge.
Yeah, we'd all go to bed later than you, or
That's
at
right.
the same time, but relative. I'm trying to be a little bit more relevant with the news. I don't want to hang on to stuff for very long, so we're going to try and do it a little bit more often as far as that goes. And spoiler, this week, that is after this episode publishes, you are going to hear an interview. I know I've been promising a while, but we made it happen. I talked with Joel and Kevin. Who are Joel and Kevin? Well, it's Afterglow, and we talk about that.
Nice.
Yeah, we take a journey to the now some people, it's interesting, we get into this in the episode. There are some people who that immediately emotes a feeling of, I know exactly what Afterglow is. Other people have no idea at all, but know the music of Afterglow. And the second that you hear the song, you go, oh, yeah, that's Afterglow. Of course I know that song, but don't associate it that way.
Are they playing any of their music live?
No, unfortunately not. Got into that, but spoiler, they may attend the 1000th episode of the Cultural Hall that will happen later this year. They may be some entertainment as far as that goes.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
Yeah, they don't know that yet, but they may be. I think I can talk to Joel's wife, Diana, was actually the one who helped us get them into the Cultural Hall. So,
and did you think about asking him about any of the intros or outro music for the Cultural Hall?
Well, I didn't, because you know how many times it's like when people are like, hey, Richie, you DJ dances. How do you feel about a region dance? You know what I'm saying? Or like a steak dance, or I try and do that. Although I would absolutely love, and maybe this is something that we do in association with the 1000th episode, is like a little bit of a musical tribute. I would probably have to write it for them, but you know how there's that very obvious feel of Afterglow, and then a little bit of speak singy, like you get with Michael McLean and some of that. I think I would love something along those lines. Anyway, who knows? Who knows? They may not have interest.
A listener of the Culture Hall accosted me a couple of weeks ago and suggested that they thought it was me singing the little ditty that Peter Breinholt sings.
Oh yeah, no, it's not.
It was a great compliment when they said, that sounds like your voice, Verlin. And then I listened to it a couple of times and I said, yeah, on my very best day, at the very best point in my life, maybe I was about 50% of that, but yeah.
Yeah, Peter does a great job. One of the things that tickles me, since we're just talking about this kind of stuff, the way that people spell your name in emails makes me laugh. And I'm sure that you have experienced that your entire life. Like, there have been a couple of times where I'm like, I don't even know what word, so I try and say it out loud, and I go, oh, Verlin. They're trying to say Verlin.
Yeah. Well, they're trying all the different Utah spellings that are possible, number one. And number two, spell check does a horrendous thing. At least Microsoft spell check used to spell check it to vermin and autocorrect So it was nice.
That's closer than some of the ones I've seen. Like I've seen Verland, Verland.
Yeah,
I've seen the like lazy Utah speak of Verlin, Lun instead of Lin.
sure.
I curse your
I
parents
appreciate all of them.
for
I love it.
naming you a thing that's hard to pronounce.
I'm just glad someone's thinking of me and taking time to type in those 6 letters
Yeah,
or 7
yeah,
or 8, depending on their version.
yeah. Several have the eigh, which I just thought was weird. There's not even a
Ooh,
Verlin
nice.
sound in that. Other things. Oh, I wanted to share this. I thought this was interesting. I got permission. I have to hand it to this individual whose name I'm not even going to say, because he did exactly what I asked, which is when I say, send us an email, contact@theculturalhall.com. This is the first line of his email. Not interested in having this read on the show in podcast form. Perfect. That is the way to do it. But then he shared some things that I thought might be pertinent to share, and I wanted to leave him out of it. So I obtained permission to be able to share these things, and so I wanted to share this. He sort of talks about his association with the Cultural Hall. So I would love feedback on this. If this is other people's experiences, if folks' experiences are something like this, but maybe you have a different way of describing it, or maybe this is not your experience with the Cultural Hall at all, I welcome this. Please send these things, and I think you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about here in just a second. He said, quote, sometimes it all feels overwhelming, and I need a place to process all of it. Listening to the Cultural Hall is like connecting with a support group with others who want to be faith-affirming, want to do what is right, and have also been forced to see the gray areas in the church that obviously exist. Thank you for letting me know that others feel similarly, can see the mess, and chose to carry on in spite of it all. So I thought that was beautifully said. If you have a similar sentiment or something completely different, contact at theculturalhall.com. And if you don't want me to send say your name as part of it, make that first part. Please don't share this. Or share my name as part of it. So what's new with you? Different backdrop. That would make me think you are renovating like crazy, but it's fascinating.
That is not the case. I'm at my son's home in his home office, taking it over as my studio. He and his wife are both out of town, so we're watching 2 grandsons.
Okay.
And practicing for the day that we will no longer be able to live in our house for some period of time and have to decamp to this location anyways.
Oh wow! So you're doing that?
Yeah. So we're doing a week of taking care of the grandsons, which is great. It fits into the routine well. And in the meantime, this morning I handed over a very large check for the down payment on the renovation that is supposed to start imminently.
How do we feel about that?
I feel good about it, excited about it, ready to get going.
Okay.
The faster we get going, the faster we get done. So that's the goal.
Actually, not true.
Well, okay.
I mean, the sooner you get going can be here. So I'm facing a quick thing. We're trying to get water to our side property. Had a guy come out, called him. He's there lickety split the next morning, right? I said, hey, I have a quote. And he's like, you bet. And like, he sat in his truck for a minute. And he's like, here. And I was like, whoa, this is incredible. Not only that he did it that quick, but it was affordable. And I was like, let's go. Put me on the calendar. And he's like, all right, well, we got to get the gas line because we're digging some stuff and water line because we're digging some stuff.
Got to get it marked. Yeah.
Called him 7 times now and I haven't yet been put on his calendar. And it's the worst thing because it's not, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. You liked him. He gave you a good quote. You want to move forward with him. You don't want to go find an alternative.
No.
But he's just annoying you because he's not responding.
Yeah. My wife says, nope, burn it. Let's go to someone else. And I'm like, no, listen, I've got to give him one more shot.
Did you tell him he's got one more shot?
Well, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, hey, pal. And this is a tangent that I wasn't going to get into, but since we're here, and then I would love to know about your innovation. I'm sorry that I have now done this way. So I have a house. It's a 2-story house in the backyard. It's only kind of one in the front because of how it works with windows and stuff.
Just like our house.
Yep. I want to get leaf filters so that I don't have to keep getting up on the roof and, pouring all that stuff out, right? It's dangerous.
Yeah.
The older I get, I don't want to deal with it, blah, 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 blah.
I pay a friend to do it for me, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and maybe that's where I'll have to go. Problem is, like, we get crap in the spring, we get crap in the summer, we get crap in the fall, and then in the winter, it's even more because the fall didn't get there before the winter, blah, 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 right? So it's
Yeah.
constant.
Yeah.
I got online to one of the companies and I said, hey, I don't need to have a meeting with you. I just need you to come to my house and tell me what it will be. And Dave, bless his sweetheart, came to my house yesterday and I said, Dave, I don't want to meet with you. Measure my house and tell me what it is. And we get done and he's got his trainee, Braden, who said, this is the life I'm signing on for. Let's do this. And he said,
there's a name you only find.
Yeah.
Braden is a name you only find in certain parts of the country.
Yes. And interestingly enough, spelled Breighdooohn, Braydon. He said, will you sit down with me for a minute? And I said, Dave, remember what fine, I'll sit down for a minute with you. A minute quickly became 20 minutes. And I said, Dave, listen, here's the deal. I don't much care. If I can afford to do it right now, I'll do it. And if I can't afford to do it right now, then I'm grateful for the information. Can we please? And he's like, well, I just got to. And I'm like, no, we don't just got to. And I turned to Braden and I said, Braden, when people are asking you what something costs, I was maybe a little bit caustic as far as this goes. I said, Braden, when someone asks you what something costs, from a customer perspective, let me tell you, I don't care if it's made in the USA. I think that's great. Right. But that's not what I'm asking. I don't care that you get it done in one day, although that also is great. I don't care that it's medical microfiber as
environmentally sound, recycled water.
Yes. Yeah. If what I'm asking you is what does this cost, please just tell the person what it costs. And he was sort of laughing and Dave was uncomfortable. And he's like, now before I do, and I just was like, Dave, you are missing the point. Spent 5 more minutes and I said, Dave, I'm done. Thank you for coming to my home today. And he's like, well, now, hold on. That number can be. And I was like, Dave, not only did you not give me the actual number that you could go to today and today only, but you took a half an hour of my time when I explicitly told you I don't want to give you a half an hour of my time.
And what he doesn't appreciate is you are a small business owner.
Yes.
And you give people quotes all the time.
Right.
And you have to deal with this, right? And
yes.
You know how to do it.
Well, and so I was talking to my brother who's a realtor, and a realtor is a different sort of thing, right? You need to know that you trust the person. It's a much larger purchase. It's, a lot of things. But even with, and maybe I'm the rarity, my brother will call it pulling a Richie at the title. That's where you go, right, to sign all the papers. The title agency.
Yeah, the title office, or you can do it at a bank. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we went to a title agency, and I was in and out of that meeting in 45 seconds. They were like, "Where?" And I was like, "Here, here, here, here." They're like, "Do you want to read it?" And I said, "No, I'm buying. It's done. I'm doing this. Here, here. Is this a good deal? Great. All right. Do you think so? Okay." And they're like, never before. And I was like, I ain't got time to, if I trust you, sign, done. Give me the keys. Let's go.
Yep. Yeah. On our house, the best thing we did on our new old house was that we were able to, because of the way the transactions worked out, buy it in cash up front. I didn't even have to go to some office to sign something. Awesome. They sent me all the forms online. I docu-signed all of them and we were done.
That's incredible. It was great. Click, click, click. So what are we talking? 50,000? None of my business, but now I want to know. Are we 6 digits in renovations?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh
yeah.
Are you getting it exactly how you want it to? I hope so.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to have it exactly the way we want it. Yep. No question.
Do you look over at Susan and does she look over at you and say, we'll die in this house?
I've told people that I will.
Yeah.
In fact, I admitted that in Elders Quorum last week. I said, yep, we bought this house and my plan is to die in this house.
That's great.
Unless I die in some horrific airplane wreck, which is really my desire.
Yeah.
So, not to take other people with me, but I think that would be, very appropriate for the number of frequent flyer miles I put on my body in my life to pass away that way and quick and painless.
Okay. So what we'll do is when it gets to that time, we'll just fire up the small plane that someone is looking to get the
Perfect.
insurance on. And
Yeah.
we'll say, all you got to do, Verlin, just push
Just
this
pull up on the stick.
and then pull, and we'll see ya. Goodbye.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
Shut the door.
Put me near
thing.
an ocean,
Okay.
and we'll take care of it there. That's
Okay.
great.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All good.
That is your last of life plans. Other thing worth mentioning, and I look forward to this future episode, when Taylor One Chain Westbrook comes into the Cultural Hall next to do articles of news as part of my email repentance process. I have now searched the Cultural Hall, that is the contact at the Cultural Hall email inbox, and found all of the emails that he had sent previous to becoming a news co-host, and we will address all of the issues and things in those emails that he sent. And he apparently was pretty mad that I never responded to one of them, so I'm not sure which one of them it is. I'm pretty sure I have an idea, but I look forward to be able to having that email repentance. So that will
I love it
in the future.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Shall we take a break and then come back and do actual articles of news, or do you have anything else of which we should address at this time?
Nothing particularly add at this time. Let's proceed to the next block.
All right, coming back, we're doing actual articles of news. Let me take just a moment to tell you all about bestdjinutah.com. That is the website where you can learn all about me. Oh, sure, you probably feel like you know me, but you know me in the Cultural Hall sense. I have a DJ company, now 6 of us strong, great event hosts, MCs, and DJs that can be able to make whatever event you have coming up absolutely spectacular, and hope you will reach out to us. Now you're thinking, well, wait a minute, Richie, I don't live in Utah. Would you travel? Absolutely, I would travel. Would they travel? Absolutely, they would travel. Whatever your event is, doesn't have to be a wedding or a community event. We can do all sorts of things. I can teach you line dancing. I can dance with you. We can do partner dancing. We can do all kinds of things, but we can't do any of it if you don't hit me up. You can go to bestdjinutah.com. You can fill out the form to get more information or get a quote, and then I will get right back to you. Find out why I'm so busy and why sometimes we don't get episodes of the Cultural Hall. It's all because of bestdjinutah.com.
You can't lose articles of news.
Here in the second half of Articles of News, we do actual articles of news. Hit it, Verlin. And away we go. Just kidding. It's Peter Breinholt, guest number 6, and he was been on here a couple other times since then. Amazing work that he does. He even, and I don't know that everyone knows this, the little music that's strumming underneath the beginning intro of interview episodes, he did that for us as well.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. I was excited to find out that Deion Sanders' kid joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints so he could be drafted. That's how he finally went in the 5th round. That's exciting news. It's like, listen, what do I got to do? And they're like, listen, the Mormons, if you join them, maybe they'll get you into Cleveland. Here we go.
Yep. Well, he got to the Browns. I don't know about you, but I actually loved watching that very awkward situation where he was on social media. He was basically live casting himself the entire process.
Oh, I didn't watch any of it. I just knew I just knew it was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
and apparently, I mean, this isn't the. We're going to get into some Latter-day Saints who were drafted, etc. But apparently, there are people now that are like, that's just racist. It's just racist. And to me, I'm like, yeah, or like I tend to side on the dad is so involved. And granted, dad has experience from being in the NFL, so he has some particular knowledge. But like, you know, the term a momager, like I just feel like too involved.
Talk about helicopter parenting. So for those that don't know, Shadur Sanders was a quarterback at the University of Colorado. According to all the prognosticators, at least a majority, they thought he was going to go sometime in the 1st round of the draft, which is, I can't even remember. Is that 18 picks, 19 picks, something like that?
I would have no idea.
But he didn't go in the 1st round, the 2nd round, or the 3rd round. Which
is all on the first day, right? 1st through 3rd?
Well, 1st through 2nd, I think, is first day.
Okay.
And I'm sure we're saying it wrong here. I don't even know.
We are sports. Your sports authorities.
At least we're admitting we don't know when we talk about sports.
Right.
So in his case, he went way, way, way later. In fact, he went after several other quarterbacks that were expected to be chosen after him. And after he was chosen, the kind of the news came out that lots of teams had been put off by him in his interviews with the teams, acting very overconfident and kind of dismissive of their teams, and the worry that his father, who is a very well-known ex-NFL player and current coach of the University of Colorado, would suck all the air out of the room whenever they met and would be a helicopter parent and would be constantly commenting and criticizing on whatever team drafted it.
Right.
So, I see it as purely the team saw what they were going to get and they put a value on what they were going to get, and he became the 144th pick.
Yeah, don't feel bad for him. He's making $4 or $5 million a year. I mean,
I'm not sure. I think he's now in the range. I think there are prescribed rates of pay for draftees down at that level. And so I think he'll be lucky if he makes more than he would have made staying at the University of Colorado for another season, number one. And number two, he's going to have to fight his way onto a roster where there are currently 4 other quarterbacks for that team. And he's number 4. He was number 5, but the team traded one away earlier this week.
Well, you only need so many. His contract is a 4-year, $4.6 million deal. Got
so it's 1.1 a year, which he could have made in college under NIL.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not his fault. That's NIL's fault. This doesn't have anything to do with the church, so let's get to there. At least he got drafted. All of BYU players are going, hey, can someone invite us to a party, please?
That's right. This was the big surprise. Was BYU had an incredible football season. They went 11-2. They won their bowl game dramatically against the University of Colorado, and yet they didn't have any draftees. There were 2 that we thought would go to the draft, but neither one of those did. What they did get is a whole bunch of free agent contracts, which means they were not drafted, but the team reached out to them and said, hey, we really want you to come to camp. We want you to come and try out for the team as a free agent. And if you make the team, then here's the kind of compensation we'll give you.
Yeah.
So there's a number of those. Darius Lassiter was the most recent as of yesterday. Blake Mangelson, Tyler Batty, Jacob Robinson, Caleb Etienne, Brandon Keim, and Connor Pay are both going on what called mini camp invites, which is the team has a mini camp that invites a ton of people who weren't drafted. And if by chance you really impress them, then there's a chance you could get on the practice team.
Yeah, it's one guy waiting to go, Rudy.
Yeah.
Rudy.
Yeah, so BYU went 0 for the 2 that they expected to go in the draft. Now, what was really interesting and surprising was what a University of Utah player. For those that know Caleb Lohner, you say, wait, Caleb Lohner, I've heard that name. Didn't he play basketball?
Yeah, the unfortunately named Caleb Lohner. Yeah.
Caleb Lohner played basketball for BYU as well as for Baylor. And then he transferred to Utah this past season to play football as a tight end. And with that one season playing a tight end, he has now been drafted to the Denver Broncos.
Wow.
So pretty amazing. I've always liked Caleb. I love the way he plays. I don't know much about his personality and why he didn't do so well at BYU. But the guy has made his way onto an NFL football squad. So congratulations to Caleb.
In an interview, he said he liked Utah because, hold on, I'm reading it right here. They like fun. That was the difference. So he decided to go to the University of Utah. I'm teasing. You can have fun wherever you go. You can create it wherever you go. A sea of Utahns, similar thing, getting invited as free agents.
Yep.
Members. These are members of the church, all of these, or these are the University of Utah folks? We don't know.
These are the University of Utah folks. We don't know if they're all members or not, but a wide range. And then Utah State had a player drafted as well. Jalen Royals is going to the Kansas City Chiefs, to a team that has a coach that's a member of the church. And I believe so. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I am not an expert on Utah State football. Never have been.
Okay. But
there's only one stat I care about with Utah State football. And apologies to Utah State fans, but my stat that I care about is that they do not win against BYU.
Okay. Jeez. Fighting words. And then other mini camp invites as far as that goes. And way to go. Utah had one as well. Okay.
Southern Utah did. Now, isn't that your alma mater?
I am a T-bird through and through. Now, wait a minute. Jackson Dart He is an LDS person, I know, because I mean,
He is.
you just
Yeah.
look at him and you can go, that guy's LDS. He comes up through the ranks of the quarterback factory at Corner Canyon High School, which is where I almost said Luke Wilson. What's the why can't I think of the family name?
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, and then his little brother
Isaac, I believe.
Brindley, right?
Is
Brindley
it
Wilson.
Isaac?
I
I think it's
think
Isaac
it's
Wilson.
Isaac. Yeah, went on to the U. They
Yeah.
thought they might get him at BYU. That it's that. Yeah, when you go and watch Corner Canyon football, that is a very manufactured team.
It is.
Jackson's
Absolutely.
aunt lives in the boundaries, and so he's like, well, I guess I'm moving in with my aunt.
Well, he was playing in Roy, right? And his coach came to him and said, "You're not going to get the exposure here you need. We got to figure out how to get you some more exposure." So he went to live with the aunt, in quotes for those that aren't watching on YouTube,
Mhm.
and so he lived with the aunt and did well and was drafted. Not drafted. He was recruited by many. Played at USC and then played at Ole Miss this most recent year and had a fantastic season. And he was drafted in the first round to the New York Giants.
Jeez.
So good luck to him, which
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah. Good luck at the Giants. All right. That's
And
enough.
then
Are we? Is there more sports things? People do not come to us for sports, Verlin. I get a
well,
little.
the next one. Well, we can put a sprinkling of sports in,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So the next one I thought was very notable. So we know that Southern Virginia University is not a church-owned school, but it is close as you can get. They have the same honor code. They have the same kind of course outlines. They have the same credits. They have religion courses. It's basically kind of a clone of BYU approach.
But
And
it's a public
their
school,
men's,
right?
it's not a public, it's a private school. Anyone can attend.
Okay.
But it's privately owned by owners and a board of directors. And Bonnie Corden, as we talked about last time you and I spoke, Bonnie
Mhm.
Corden is the president of the university currently. But their men's volleyball team just won the Division III national championship. So
Well,
congratulations to them for a job well done in Division III.
I'm trying to see if, because you made a statement that I don't know is actually true, that they have the same honor code. I think you can have a beard at Southern Virginia University.
Um,
I don't know
I'm
that, and I'm
trying to
trying to
think.
find like
So
that.
I have two nephews that play lacrosse there and that have played lacrosse there, and I've been to lots of games. And I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen facial hair, but I could be wrong.
Because they're,
I could
this
be
will say
wrong.
dress and appearance should be clean, respectful, and appropriate for the occasion. I'm trying to look for the very specific things.
They definitely
Yes.
do not have the BYU Idaho dress code, but I
Oh.
think their dress code is very close to BYU
Okay.
BYU Provo. So good on the Golden, or good on the Knights. Good for them. Way to play, way to win.
Okay,
And then
so let's keep sports going then. The Boston Marathon.
last sports, yeah.
Connor Mance, our man, a former BYU runner. I always want to say that he ran under what's that from the old Ace Ventura, Einhorn, right? That's Finkel and Einhorn when Jim Carrey. Anyway, Eyestone, right? That's his name.
Yes,
The
Ed
coach?
Eyestone.
Ed Eyestone. And I always think
Yep.
of Ray Einhorn, the guy that my word association's off today. An
Speaking
amazing
of bad
running
facial
coach.
hair, for those that don't know, Ed Eyestone has grown a mustache this year, and it's not the most attractive in the world, but it's
But
awesome
it's the
if you want to
thing
look
to
up his
do right
picture.
now. It's the
It
thing
is.
to do. Can
Yeah.
you grow a mustache?
No, I've had a goatee for the last month, and you didn't mention it once as we were recording articles and news. That tells you
Interesting.
how good mine was.
Now I don't. As you say that, I don't think that I can remember that. Funny though, the way that I go about, like, if people get haircuts, even if it's drastic, I can't remember how you looked before I see you right now. Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
gone. It's gone.
that's okay. Yeah. So the good thing about the Boston Marathon is not only does Connor Mance do a fantastic job finishing in 2:05:08, but 3 of the top 10 finishers were members of the church.
Of Jesus
we have
Christ of
Connor
Latter-day
Mance.
Saints?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Hold on.
Connor Mance came in.
Hold on. I'm looking at the names, and
Yep,
I
you
want to
tell
see
me.
if I can pick out the members of the church.
Yep.
All right. So number 1, first place is John Courier. I don't have a classic Courier. Okay, I'm gonna say no, based solely on the fact that if a Mormon would have won the Boston Marathon, I would have known about it before now.
Ding, ding, ding. You're correct.
Alphonse Felix Simbu, I'm gonna say not a member of the church.
Well, be careful
Cyprian,
because we have such a growth rate in Africa right now. I believe this is a Kenyan runner.
right, but
Um,
I'm gonna admittedly be
you're going to just
generalized and
generalize.
stereotype. I am because members of the church that I think all went through BYU and are in their mid to late 20s, I would presume.
Ah, yeah, good point.
So I listen, I am fully embracing what this is.
Okay.
Cyprian Kotut is probably not it. Connor Mance fourth, so he's first.
Yep.
Mukhtar Idris probably not. Sixth.
Probably not.
Rory Linkletter. I'm going to say Rory Linkletter. Yeah, okay. I'm going to say Rory Linkletter for the Mormon. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. And he actually is from Canada, not from the US.
Okay.
But he ran for BYU, and he's not a member of the church. I'm sorry,
Oh,
he's not a member of the church, but he ran for BYU.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
Now
Rory,
is my last
Rory,
one. I have 7 through 10. Is my last one
yeah,
a member or not? This will be important.
yes, the last one is a member,
Okay.
and obviously so.
Okay. So my choices are Tabello Rakamgoana, Daniel Matiko, Ryan Ford, or Clayton Young. I'm going to narrow it down between Clayton Young and Ryan Ford. And because he's a member of the church, I am going to go with Clayton Young, final answer.
Ding, ding, ding. You are correct. Yep.
And a descendant of Brigham Young, which no one saw coming.
Yeah, he and Connor Mance are running partners. They typically, in fact, I believe in the Olympics, they may have finished right seventh and eighth or eighth and ninth or something like that. They always finish within a few places of each other.
Okay. Well, way to go,
So,
Connor Mance.
yeah, way to go, Connor. Way to go, Rory, and way to go, Daniel. Or not Daniel. I'm sorry, Clayton.
Hey, no, listen, those
Yeah.
guys were sixth and seventh place. I'm only giving my congratulations to Connor for fourth. I don't just give congratulations all around. Forget it.
That's right. People talk about BYU football and basketball, but if you talk to anyone who really knows, BYU is a running school. Both
Yeah.
men's and women's programs dominate and do a fantastic job.
So let's get to this. Let's get to some harder news here. I want to make sure
Yep.
you have lovingly collected a lot of these things. Dan McClellan, there is a great from the desk.org. I want to make sure that I'm giving proper attribution. There is a guy in my ward. His name is Kurt. Yep, from the desk.org. It's a podcast and you can read a bunch of blogs. He has written, that is Dan McClellan, has written a book. Now, Dan McClellan, you probably know if you spend
If you
any
don't,
amount
you
of
ought
time.
to.
Yeah, if you spend
Yeah.
any amount of time online, particularly on TikTok, but it's transcended into Instagram and other things as well. Dan McClellan, we've had him here on the Cultural Hall. He was in our episode 666, The Mark of the Beast, and
Totally appropriate.
yeah.
Yeah.
He sort of breaks down the Bible in what the Bible says and what it doesn't say, and sort of when people make claims on the internet of like, well, the Bible says, that two men shouldn't lie down together. Like he will come out and say, hey, this is what this says about that, or this is what is being interpreted as far as that goes, and does it with all things, and even will say things like, in one of the quotes in the story about his new book that's coming out, and that's where I'm landing this plane in just a second. He talks about, yeah, the Bible also says you should strike your children, but I'm not encouraging you to do that. I just am trying to tell you what, in fact, the Bible says and what it actually doesn't say. The name of his book is The Bible Says So. There's the most recent interview from thedesk.org is an interview with Dan McClellan. Does a really good job. And Kurt Manwaring in my ward. He's my ward mission leader.
I'm going to have to listen to that one. I love reading what Dan and listening to what Dan McClellan has to say. If anyone listening here is interested in the Bible and understanding what is really meant in the Bible. I can't remember all of his degrees, but I think Dan has a bachelor's, 2 masters, and a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
He's very well known for researching the Bible in its original context
Mm-hmm.
and original meanings, and really is great at interpreting what it really means, says and does not say. And at times you would think he's not a member of the church because he doesn't always toe the church line.
Sure.
He tries very hard to be neutral and just interpret what the text says and what he believes it means.
Has a podcast, Data Over a Dogma, which one of the regrets of my life, at one point they asked me to produce that show, and I said probably not. It's fine. Because it was a bet. It wasn't a sure thing. I didn't know what he spend a lot of time. You make a commitment, and I want to do the things the right way. Anyway, that part of that, you can check out his weekly podcast. But the book, The Bible Says So, I like him because he is everything. I've met him in person, actually at a podcast conference. He is as you see him on his TikTok and social media. He is comic book t-shirt and very like intentional about, yep, well, this is what it says. Here we go.
Yeah. In fact, the subtitle is What We Get Right and Wrong About Scripture's Most Controversial Issues. So.
And what I love about him too, he was working at BYU, and BYU came to him and said, hey, social media or no, you're either gonna have to go and do that or continue to work here. And he was like, deuces, I'm out. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go do this,
and it's worked out well
without y'all. And it's just, he gambled on himself, and it paid off.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, which I'd love to be able to chat with him about. So maybe a future episode. I'm sure he'll be doing the
rounds for sure. Yeah.
So now I know
Can we talk about Trump and immigration and the church?
I think we can.
I think we can.
Does he care about it?
I'm no longer in a calling where I receive these kinds of notices, but evidently a notice went out to bishops and stake presidents, particularly in regards to the immigration policy, the church, and temple recommend questions. Mm-hmm. Evidently, bishops were starting to ask about questions in regards to immigration as an ex-bishop, as a fired bishop and fired branch president. I would never even think of how immigration would come up in a temple recommend interview myself, but evidently there were enough questions about it that the first presidency came out, and they said specifically that it is not appropriate. They said the letter that went out says, with enhanced enforcement of immigration laws in various jurisdictions, we have received inquiries from priesthood leaders about temple recommend interview questions. We remind those conducting temple recommend interviews that under established policy, local leaders are to ask only the temple recommend questions as currently constituted.
Yep.
Period.
Yes.
Then they say authorities should not add or remove any requirements. However, they may adapt the questions to the age and circumstances of the member.
Sure.
Okay. But most of us can remember the temple recommend interview questions. I can't recall any single one that would question immigrant status. The only one I could think about is the question, do you strive to be honest in all of your dealings?
Sure. And that's where you get the person, well-intentioned or not, I think in some cases, who goes, well, you know what they're saying by that. So let me go ahead and ask what they're not asking. I'll go ahead and ask that question. I think that it is a fascinating take that the church has on it, because yes, for entering the temple, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
There are lots of things that if we take the questions are the entrance way into the temple, there are a lot of things that we put on that actually aren't on that at all. And
that's right.
It's important that we keep that pure. But on the other side of it, I do think it is a fascinating thing for the church as a body in the United States to be like, guys, don't ask them. We don't want to know. Don't ask them. Leave that alone.
The way that I read this is that's not an appropriate question for a temple recommend. There's lots of other questions you could ask. You could ask Verlin how many traffic tickets he has. That's not going to matter.
Agreed. Agreed. The other side of it would argue a little bit, but the church stands for upholding and living the laws of the land in which it lives.
Honoring, obeying, sustaining the law.
Yeah, and that listen, everyone knows how.
But that's not a temple recommend question.
Agreed, and I think the thing that is difficult for people to kind of weigh out.
Yeah.
Is this is not my opinion, but people will say, I don't think that this person should be here in this country, right? That isn't how I feel. That is not how I've ever felt. Bring them on. In fact, I like most immigrants more than I like most Americans that have been here for several generations. All right. It's just genuinely and generally how I feel. But to keep them out of the temple, no. But is it a fine line that we thread to be like, yeah, no, listen, we don't want to know if this is illegal, and we would never do that and should never do that in other things that are illegal, but we just have sort of don't ask, don't tell on the matter of immigration. And for a lot of people, that's a hard thing to just be at peace with. And the church is saying, be at peace with it. And they're like, confliction, dissonance. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, gray area, right? Back to that gray area. I love the message of stick to the questions as they're published.
Yes.
And President Nelson, outlined those questions in general conference specifically so that we all knew what they were. And they're now in the handbook where everyone can read them. They're published over and over. They're great questions. They're between you and your bishop, and that's it.
Yep. And I fully intend, I hope, just for the experience of it, not because I want to be confrontational, but I hope one day I'm in a Temple Recommend interview and someone asks me a question that isn't on the list, and I'll just say, I'm not going to answer that question as it's not part of this interview. Just because I want to, not because I want to be confrontational.
And you won't surprise anyone with that response.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows you, any leader better know that that's what they're going to get. I used to say no to a question that would surprise everyone that asked me the question the Temple recommended.
Well, now I need to know.
What was the old question about? Do you support any organizations or individuals whose teachings or practices are contrary to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Right.
And I used to say, yes.
Yeah.
I have lots of friends whose teachings and practices are not in keeping with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I love them. I support them. I would die for them.
Right.
That's the way I look at that.
And I can remember a bishop's interview where I was like, aside from the Boy Scouts or like some of these other organizations, or is that what we're talking about right now? And the bishop sort of laughed, and I was like, I mean, I don't know, take that for what it is. And then obviously the question is reworded. So don't ask about it, people in authority.
That's right.
Now you have had this story when we were to record last time. You're like, listen, let's talk about this story. We didn't get to it. I don't want to take a lot of time because it's just so weird, but let's talk about the sword.
Well, there's an article about a very famous sword related to the church that's been discovered. And as I read this, I'm like, oh, what sword could that be? And of course, the
Laban.
in me, I want it to be the sword of Laban. I want to have that sword. Well, it's not the sword of Laban. There's a guy who was one of the leaders of the mob that killed Joseph Smith at Carthage jail back in 1844, and it turns out that his progeny joined the church, and they now own the sword from this gentleman. I guess it's what was the gentleman's name? Ben Watson is the current owner of the sword, and he lives in Rexburg. And his fourth great grandfather, John Macaulay, was among the leaders of that mob that killed Joseph Smith.
Mm-hmm.
So good for Ben. He's got the sword. Pretty cool. But it's not the sword of Laban. Dang it.
And John will be doing your steak fireside where he talks about, doesn't that seem like one of the things, like, I had no idea what this sword was. And then it drew me in and I started reading. Like, that seems to me like how a good 25% of the people that do the fireside like tour in Utah, it's like, I happen to get an original copy of the Book of Mormon. My great grandfather was this, whatever. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so too. He ends it on a little bit of a fireside message. Watson hoped to eventually display it in a museum so future generations can learn its history. And quote, he says, somehow I would love to turn the story into one of hope, healing, and forgiveness.
Mm.
An item that was once an instrument of war can be transformed into an instrument of peace.
Yep. Being a peacemaker. C's on the
I think
way.
only if he buries it. I think that's the only
Oh.
way it becomes an instrument of peace, right?
Yes, okay. And then the doctrinal like side piece to burying your sword. I love it.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Ben Watson, you better bury that sword. Actually, I'd love to chat with him because like
Be a fun chat.
yeah. Okay, so what
Yeah.
do you talk to your kids? Hey, this is a weapon of hate, every kid. You know, I don't know. I do think it is an interesting story. I sort of joke around about it because that's the only feelings I have because I'm dead inside. But I do think that things like that are pretty cool when you have someone happens upon it, finds it in their life, is able to make it something that is applicable and can be something that good that comes from. So why not?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sure.
All right, so we got that one done. The church, geez, 3 temples in Wyoming, but membership in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Wyoming, the literal only state in these United States to have a dip, a falling off, a slip, as it were. This, according to Matt Martinick, who he's the world's pharaoh. We have our own pharaoh. But everyone else gets to share Matt Martinick. He does everything with statistics and I would love to have an episode with Matt and Corey, just talking all things statistics. He says, "Hey, you know what? Wyoming, yep, little slip, down 0.26% in the church rolls in Wyoming, but yet they're getting a third temple. Maybe it's people moving out after Cody went south and they said, listen, we need to get out of here. The locals are getting." There's an uprising.
Getting
I'm not sure.
restless.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that.
I
but
did a little digging into it to try to look and see, is this a factor of population overall in Wyoming? But
Mhm,
it turns out the population is growing slightly in Wyoming. It's not like it's growing fast.
Sure,
I mean, people love Casper, but I wouldn't want to live there myself.
sure.
So I mean, the hotbed of Laramie or Jackson Hole, they're all growing slightly, but
Mhm.
the church is not growing. And what I found curious, it's the only state that it's not growing. I thought there would be some others where it wasn't growing either, like California. But even California had a slight increase of church growth, which is great.
But if I may step into this, in the next 10 years, you're going to see Wyoming becoming the new hot place to move to. Laramie.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. It's not a long shot from other big cities.
Yep. Well, and there's a massive, I want to say like nuclear power plant going in. There's a massive something going in Kemmerer that's just like billions of dollars going in. And so
in Kemmerer of all places.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so all of that having to be supported with the infrastructure and the people that are going to work on that particular thing, huge. It will be explosive. Get in now in Kemmerer. And
I would have no idea about Kemmerer, Wyoming, except that one of my groomsmen, I think his sister lived in Kemmerer while we were going to BYU.
Well, you know, the big claim to fame about Kemmerer, Wyoming. Do you know?
No, not at all. What is it?
You don't know?
I don't.
Oh, come on. Come on. J.C. Penney, the very first J.C. Penney store, Kemmerer, Wyoming. It's right on the main drag. They have
maybe the very last J.C. Penney store.
Yeah. No, it's actually really cool. As far as like museums and things like that go, pretty cool to go check it out. It's the only thing really worth seeing. I do a couple events a year in and around Kemmerer. It's worth stopping into for a second. Oh, look at that. And that was it.
Okay. We'll have to do it.
Can't believe you didn't know that. Can't believe.
No idea. And I spent my entire career in retail technology. I can't believe I didn't know that about JC.
So maybe you know more about the last JC Penney than I do, having it be with that knowledge, huh? Speaking of the church not growing, once upon a time, the church bought some land in Far Rockaway. This is in New York. And this big, beautiful vacant lot. There was speculation that they were going to build a church house. This wasn't ever, I don't think, going to be a temple. But they were like, yeah, a church house. And they bought it. And then church went a different direction and said, okay, we still got this land. Now we're going to sell it. And they just recently sold that for $8 million to Walton Realty New York LLC.
Yeah, so they
how
bought
many
it for two. They bought it for 2.8, and they sold it for 8.
Jeez,
How dare them?
good for them. Good for
And
them.
Rockaway, by the way, is near the ocean. It's near the Atlantic Ocean. It's in Queens. If you've flown into JFK Airport, look down just before you land at JFK, and that's Rockaway.
When you take the train from JFK,
Mm,
you can write in and the next stop is Far Rockaway. Far Rockaway is the next stop on the train.
that's right.
And if you've never done that before, what a cool experience to ride the train in from JFK into Grand Central Station. What an
Yeah,
experience. Oh my
it's
gosh.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a hint for insiders flying into New York: if you're flying into LaGuardia,
Mm-hmm.
check out the bus into Manhattan. It's
Okay.
by far the easiest and cheapest way. Everyone Ubers it or takes a taxi, and it's 75, $80 with a tip. If you take the bus, it takes you into the most beautiful place in oh gosh, now I'm forgetting what's the name of the
Manhattan?
borough. The
No.
No,
Brooklyn.
not Manhattan. The north part of Manhattan, where all the jazz clubs were. Harlem. It
Harlem.
takes you to one of the best spots of Harlem. It's like the shopping district of Harlem,
Well,
and it costs you $2 or $3 to get from the airport into that shopping district, and you can hop on to a subway and get anywhere else in Manhattan you need to be. So a grand total of $6 from
hmm.
the airport instead of 80.
Your next
And you
stop
get
is
the
Far Rockaway. Far Rockaway is the next stop.
you get the benefit of seeing a whole side of New York that you may not have seen and maybe didn't want to see, but it's only 15 or 20 minutes, so you
It's an
can deal with it.
experience,
That's
stupid
right.
experience. Yeah, just an interesting story. And again, we talk about all things about the church, so I don't know that that's significant. I don't know. Some people would
Now we
read
talk
that.
about
See,
them buying real estate all the time, so they sell a little bit too.
take me on this next one. I thought this was interesting.
This next one blew me away when I heard about it. So it was just announced by the University of Utah, Utah's flagship school, as this article says. They're now offering academic credit for something that many young Utahns in particular already do: serve a religious mission. So if you serve a mission for the church, you can now fill out an application, pay $50. The article is funny. It says you pay $50, the cost of people evaluating the application.
Mhm.
But they then can grant you up to 12 credits of college credit, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any other school that does this.
Well, and now the big discussion here in the state of Utah, at least, is what are some of our other schools? Southern Utah University. You don't care about their football team. Utah State University, and some of these other places. What are they going to do? And what about though, Verlin? What if I go serve in AmeriCorps? Shouldn't I be able to get credit? What if I go and do service?
Absolutely.
What does it apply to me too? Or is it just
Yeah.
catering to the Mormons, Verlin?
Even the Peace Corps, any structured service organization, it sounds like, where you serve for an extended period of time and learn life skills as well as contributing back, can be credited.
Yeah,
So yeah. Now, personally, I did the deal at BYU where I tested out of language credits,
sure. Which
which
people
I
have been
thought
able
was
to do for a long time.
they've been able to do forever, well, by definition, because I was able to do it, of course,
Sure.
because I'm old.
Yeah.
But I always thought it was a little bit of cheating the system, because I went on a mission and I had to learn the language to serve on my mission. I had
Sure.
no choice but to learn the language, but to go back and then get credit for it just because I took a written exam, and in my case, I had to take an oral exam as well.
Sure.
And I got 16 credits of foreign language, which was awesome. Gave me a minor in French.
Sure. But I mean, the other side of that is it's like, well, I worked in the family business at the restaurant, and so I made
Yeah,
a test out of bookkeeping. It doesn't seem fair that I can get 12 accounting credits because I was in a restaurant. It's just how life is. It's not
that's
fair.
right.
My
It's
mom
not fair.
consistently growing up, life is not fair, and the sooner that you learn that, the better off you will be. I still haven't learned it. Um, what
So
I
I think it'll be interesting to see what Brigham Young University does with this policy. Are they going to start to give college credit for serving a mission as
Interesting.
well?
Interesting. I think it's worthwhile, and as we continue to see higher education change, you are going to start seeing like, hey, We have general ed requirements, and it's important for people to be able to experience all of those, that wide breadth of knowledge to get a degree. But you are going to see that change because, yeah, going and spending 2 years, a year, 6 months is a valuable thing that you won't get any other way. And we need to be able to attribute that towards a degree if we're still expecting people to get a certain amount of credits in order to graduate, and or you're going to see the amount of credits that we need to graduate towards a specific cause either go down or become more hyper focused. What I don't know about this, and what I would think would be curious, is can I get 12 credit hours at the University of Utah for serving a mission, but do I have to pay for the 12 credit hours? So you have to pay the $50 to get it adjudicated. But when I did an internship,
yeah,
over the summer, I could get credit for my internship hours, but I had to pay.
You had to pay for the credits,
for each
like
of those
tuition.
credit hours. So why wouldn't they say, listen, 16 credits, you bet that will be $6,542, and we'll loan you money that we're going to say is going to be forgiven, and then panic you when it gets to be paid back. That's what I'm loving is going on right now. Yeah. I wonder if you'll have to pay for that, or if they do just take it aside, or if it's a lower amount. Because I guess I would say at the point that you had to pay full credit price for it, almost what's the point? If you're having to,
I guess it depends on what your educational goals and objectives are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And whether that's worthwhile or not. Topic for another time, but I'm one of those people who will argue vehemently against those people that say we should start focusing college educations in on specific occupational skills and get rid of all the gen ed stuff. I think there are lots of problems in higher ed.
Sure.
That is not one of the bigger problems. I think cost and debt and escalating fees that are unreasonable is a big problem. I think critical thinking and the ability to understand what's true and not true, what is fundamental and what is not, are really critical. And you get those through a lot of those general education courses.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's move on. We got time for a couple more news stories. CES religious educators are having a second annual conference in June. You can actually view the conference live and on demand at broadcasts.churchofjesuschrist.org. This will be the 12th and 13th of June. It's inviting religious educators and seminary and institute teachers worldwide to improve their ability to invite learner engagement. Keynote address by Elder D. Todd Christofferson. Opening session with Elder Alvin F. Meredith III, president of Brigham Young, Idaho, BYU, Idaho, and Elder Clark Gilbert. Here's the thing. So I hope that this is available to all. I know that it's available to seminary institutes and the religious educators as well. And I can guarantee that most people won't be interested in something like this. But to those that are, I hope that we don't gatekeep it. Allow people to learn how to, get more, class engagement and promote sound doctrine and increase the content mastery of scriptural and prophetic teachings and all these things that this does to point out about it. Let's do it. We are all essentially in a lay church religious educators, so allow it to be open. I don't know that it is.
It doesn't say that it's closed, and it doesn't say that it's open.
Yep.
So we'd have to do some more research on that. But I agree with you 100%.
All right. Well, then take me to the next news article.
The next one, the Church History Museum is showcasing the 13th International Art Competition. This is an art exhibition that's celebrating faith across various media and cultures and will be on display at the Church History Museum. The exhibition opens April 24th, so that's past, and it will remain open until January 3rd, 2026, and admission is free. So take the opportunity to go see some wonderful art that has inspirational and church themes in it, and it's all different mediums and all different shapes and sizes of art from a number of different countries. Literally, it looks like a list of about 25 or 30 different countries, everything from Angola to Vietnam.
Yeah.
What I loved is they talk about the variety of the media from, and to quote the article, from sculpture to ceramic, from Chingtenga to tapa.
And I don't know what either of those things are. No, I have no idea.
And I don't know what tapa is. I looked up Chingtenga. you've seen African clothing, kind of
Yeah.
the historic, accurate African clothing. It's fabrics, it's art built from fabrics of that style.
Oh, interesting. And tapa, just so you know, is a traditional form of art in the Pacific Islands made from the inner bark of mulberry or fig trees.
Very cool. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. There's
Okay.
a quote in here from someone I know, actually. Amy Maxwell Howard, who was a juror on the committee that chose these 150 different works of art, says, I love not just the diversity of the stories, but the diversity of the art forms. It's not like any other exhibit I've ever seen.
Hmm.
And I know Amy because I knew her as a young woman in the ward that we lived in here in Cary, North Carolina. So these jurors have picked all these different art from artists from around the world. I think it's a wonderfully uplifting thing. I'm glad that they're doing it again, and I hope to be able to get there next time I'm in Utah.
Well, do it. I'll go with you the next time you're here.
Okay, fantastic.
Let's end here. Ammon Bundy, a previous guest of the Cultural Hall. You have to be almost a lifer of the Cultural Hall. A 2-part episode. Ammon Bundy, he and his family on the ranch down in Nevada, the government standoff, and then again up in Oregon at a wildlife refuge, and then all sorts of things in Idaho. They ruled against him on Idaho in the amount of millions of dollars, and he sort of hid away.
$52.5 million judgment he has not paid.
And now lives in Cedar City, Utah, as an article according to the Salt Lake Tribune says. The officials in the state of Utah sure know that he's there, and he's not, he is making less and less a deal of trying to be like hidden or inconspicuous or anything like that. It's like, listen, I'm here.
Sounds like he's going to church. He's hanging around the neighborhood. He's shopping. He's doing all the things you do.
It is fascinating to me, as the article will state, that he has a current tempo recommend, and I'm not standing in judgment of anyone else. And maybe he answered the question, "Am I being honest in my dealings with other people?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've paid what I said I was going to pay. That is a dishonest dealing towards me. How we split the hairs is unique. I'm going to reach out to Ammon Bundy again because I need a little bit of that in my life right now."
Please.
But yet current temple recommend, goes to church, all the things, and has a warrant, as I understand, but we're just not bothering him. Don't stir that hornet's nest. Just let Ammon be Ammon. We don't want to mess with that. Just let Ammon Bundy be.
Well, I think it's even more funny. It's not just don't stir the hornet's nest. Utah law enforcement officials view the warrant as civil rather than criminal, making extradition unlikely. And not only that, it reports that Bundy was recently pulled over for a traffic violation in Utah, where officers ran his license, saw the warrant, and chose not to arrest him.
Yeah. I have some interesting feelings on that. I understand it, but we don't have the time to get into it. So let's call that a show, shall we? We did pretty well, I think.
Sounds great. Yeah, we ran through the stories we planned mostly.
Yeah, we got a lot of news done. We've got some serious stuff to do again in the future. I hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
And if you weren't healthy enough to listen next week, you'll be healthy enough to listen next week. This week. Did I say the right week?
No, you did not, but that's fine.
And the reason is because while I was saying, I'm like, what would Ash say here?
How would she say this? And then when the time comes, you will be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger with a U will be saving a seat for you
on the back row of the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat on the back row.